Hey everybody, welcome to 3D6 Charge, a podcast about competitive Warhammer 40k, the state of the game, and community news. I am your host, Chris Vo, and joining me tonight is Kevin Lieb.
Howdy, howdy.
And Benjamin Rubenstein.
Hey guys.
So sorry we didn't have a show last week. I was having some spray foam done in my house for insulation, and I forgot that you can't be in the house while they do it, or for like 12 hours after they do it, otherwise you might die. So...
I hope you realized the 12 hours after sooner than you realized that the podcast was getting canceled. Where did you sleep last Monday, Chris?
I slept in my house.
Oh, I see.
But I stayed out of my house for a good long while, all right?
I see.
Anyway, yeah, so that's why
with
we didn't have
that,
an episode last week.
With that foam solution in your lungs, what did you do this weekend, Chris?
I went to a quote-unquote GT and went undefeated and won it.
Just to clarify, it was unfortunately not enough to qualify as a GT, correct? Size-wise, but they called it a GT?
Yes, it was advertised as a GT. They just did not have enough signups. There were 27 people on the BCP roster, which is one short of what ITC needs for a GT, and then usually, like, at least for like coverage from like the Reddit Warhammer competitive subreddit, like Meta Monday, they usually, if you're close to it, they might give you a shout out, and Goonhammer might give you a shout out in their weekly roundup. But only 22 actually started in round one, so yeah, that just was not close enough for any sort of cutoff. But it was still 5 rounds.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I was still undefeated. The final round ended in a session. It was kind of anticlimactic. It was kind of like the Orlando was it Orlando Open or one where the final round was over in like by turn 2.
That was the London Grand Tournament. It was Admech versus Admech. Admech went first, then Admech conceded.
Yeah. Kind of similar story there. So that game wasn't terribly interesting. But the semifinals game, the second to last game I played against Tyranids, was actually very interesting. It was a nice back and forth. These games, if you're a subscriber to Tactical Tortoise TV on Twitch, you can view his VODs. He was there streaming it live. He says he's going to put it on YouTube if he remembers to do so. So probably get on it. But yeah, that game was very interesting. It was the Scouring, which is everybody's favorite map. And it was against a Tyranid player who was running Hive Fleet Kraken and Hive Fleet Kronos. So,
yeah, it was close to the classic Tyranid list with a couple changes. If I remember correctly, he was running 15-man Gene Stealer squads, not the full 20s.
Correct.
Which was like, it's kind of like a neat twist where he's just accepting that they're not killing enough stuff, and 15 is enough to just obsec anything off from out from under your opponent. Which is like kind of a neat twist on that. I was into it. No Demacarons, the classic, Kronos unit of like a unit of Hive Guard, and then an Exocrine, and then if I remember correctly, it was a murderous size Hive Tyrant with like the 4 damage claws.
The Flyrant, yes.
Yep. And like some warriors and rippers and other, all the random Gribblies that Tyranids bring, because they can throw them all across the table with obsec, which is pretty sweet.
Yep.
Want to tell us about turn 1? Because watching turn 1 in that game, I was streamed, so I got to watch from home, was kind of wild. It was a really weird turn 1 for both teams, both players.
So, dice-wise, nobody made any offensive rolls at all. And then whatever, like the 1 or 2 that did get through, everybody just made their saves, and like nothing died. His Flyrant got all the way into my back line and then brought a Plague Burst Crawler down to like 1 wound. Then on my turn 1, I charged him with some Death Shroud. I threw the Plague Skull Relic at him, and like my Death Shroud completely just bounced off of him. He swung back and bounced off of them.
There's not much more killer units in the game than like that. High Tyrant is 5 attacks at 7 neg 4/4, rerolling ones to hit, and for command point hero one's wounded, though I don't think he popped that against you. But either way, every failed save is just like a dead Terminator. And then the Terminators are unbelievable choppy. And then just like everyone just missed. No one did any damage that round. It was very weird.
Yeah, everybody was just
like,
waving their arms at each other.
And instead everything survived.
Yeah, it was a really weird game. And then turn 2, he fell back with his Flyrant and then was going to take care of my Tallyman and my Contemptors, and then I smoked them on Overwatch. Let's see. There was one particular play that stood out to me as being a big mistake on his part, which was on his turn 1. So near the middle of the board, he had a big group. I think it was like his Man of Tyranid Warriors or whatever the big group was.
It was a 9-man squad of Tyranid Warriors.
Yeah, that's what it was. 9 Man of Tyranid Warriors. And he had a position so that he could go into the center objective and, hold it with the Tyranid Warriors. And, they have OBSEC and, there's 9 of them. So they're pretty tanky. They were near the Swarm Lord. So even though they were a little bit off, they could have just easily moved on. Instead, he elected to shoot with them. And in their place, he tagged the center objective with a squad of Rippers. That led to a 5-point turn 2 for him instead of a 15-point. And, because I have 2 Volkite Contemptors. Ripper Swarms are just going to melt to that. So I think, I can't remember what the score is, but I think I still would have won with that. But that definitely would have made me sweat if he had put the Tyranid Warriors on there. Instead, I was able to, take pot shots at the Warriors with entropy cannons and just, zap them with just automatically just kills them.
Yeah, because he could have double moved them with the strat, right? And then still thrown the Hive Tyrant at you. And he elected just because I remember they were just maybe an inch off of the objective, and he kind of just left them there.
Yeah, it was real close. I think he just had it set in his mind that he needed to get some shots off with the Warriors to try to take out a tank. And he had the Rippers there, so I think that was already his game plan. Because he moved very deliberately. It wasn't like a god or like a mistake or something.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. I've played Sam before. My opponent was Sam Kenny. I played him down at the Goonhammer Open, and I lost to him. He's a very solid Tyranid player. So happy to get the rematch against him, and now we're 1-1 against each other. He's a local guy, so I'll face off against him again. And then let's see. I think the other turning point was using the Dead Walk again on a particular objective. Because again, with the Scouring, you're either scoring 2, you're either scoring 5 points on primary or 15. So really, not an in between.
Or 0. 0 is really easy. To score
0 is really easy too. If you're scoring 0, 5, or 15, there's no 10 points. And Dead Walk again, being able to just put more OBSEC bodies on an objective if you don't finish your food, it wins you games. That's not the first game that stratagem has won me, and it's not going to be the last.
Yeah, that's the strat where you pick up Poxwalkers, right?
Yeah, you roll 76 in your command phase, and then 3 ups, you get 1 back.
Yeah. I remember that. You use it to just drop a bunch of Poxwalkers onto an objective from a barely surviving unit. All of a sudden it was yours. And it happens in your command phase. So you do it before you score, which means you can then score the primary after it happens. Or you can even be really goofy and use coherency to string them out on an objective that you weren't even on.
Yeah. So if you're a Death Guard player and you're not bringing Poxwalkers, consider it.
All in all, your best choice isn't close.
All in all, tight game. Very fun game. Sam is a hell of a competitor. Stuff to him. And then, my last round was against Space Wolves, and like I said, it's just I got turn 1, I shot a bunch of stuff, and it died, and then there wasn't really. It was basically the opposite roles of my game 4.
Yeah, that game 4 was really fun to watch too. There are definitely things to be learned there about Tyranids and Death Guard. It's a cool game.
Yep. Onto other news. Deathwatch are going to be highlighted in the next campaign book, and they're great. They're getting a new army of Renown, and Kevin, our resident Deathwatch enthusiast, what I understand, he's pretty hype, and I like just from reading a little bit of that. I was, at first glance, you're like, hey, this actually sounds like really good. It's one of those things that kind of just strikes you as being pretty powerful. So, when you guys want to start walking us through that?
I'll take the lead. So it's an army of renown. So all army of renown in theory are supposed to have some restrictions you have to do in order to become the army of renown. In this case, you can only bring characters, kill teams with a specialization, and that's kind of like the chapter command for Deathwatch. Transports, Corvus Black Stars, and repulsors. So essentially, kill teams and things to transport kill teams and their leaders. So to what you get for this though is in your command phase for every one of your units, you get to say, hey, what chapter tactic do I want them to have this turn from among the generic the other chapter's chapter tactics, and they get to have it replacing the Deathwatch chapter tactic with that chapter tactic. The same chapter tactic cannot be repeated more than once on the same unit for the entire game. So you can't just be like, I'm playing Deathwatch, but surprise, I'm always White Scars. No go. So first off,
sorry, that's written really interestingly too, because that's an unbelievable amount of bookkeeping. Like, I have to keep track of what tactic every single unit in my army has been every single turn. I can never go back and double up. That seems. You could convince me that they meant to make it so your whole army has to pick it every turn. But it's definitely not what they wrote. They definitely wrote like your whole, like every unit picks every turn. And as a TO, that sounds like a nightmare, because I know I'm going to walk over to a table and someone's going to be like, I think they were already White Scars this game, and the player's going to be like, nah, they were not. And it's like, what do you do?
Yeah,
that's just too much bookkeeping.
As somebody who brings just an iPad and my phone to events, aside from my army, I'm not even going to touch this army of Renown. Just because, like, I would just need to bring a notepad and then just have a piece of paper next to every single unit and just write it down every turn. And it's going to get real.
You need like a checklist for every unit. Like, every unit is a checklist. All right, this unit has pretended to be Ultramarines, Blood Angels, and Raven Guard this game, so they can still be White Scars this turn to advance and charge. This unit over here, they've been Blood Angels. I don't know. They took a turn off just to get nothing. And Raven Guard and White Scars, but this turn they can be Ultramarines to fall back and shoot. It just seems like an unbelievable amount of bookkeeping. That being said, it's unbelievably powerful. This is a really powerful mechanic. Holy crap!
I love it. I love it so much. Like and it also plays into the whole Deathwatch being like the special forces of special forces, where like they're all infinitely adaptable because they're a brotherhood of veterans. Very flavorful.
Can you pick up like a one custom trait?
Yeah. So far, I've only watched someone review the book once, and if it's like Brotherhood of Veterans, you can pick one of the sub traits.
I think you can. And is this only your squads, or can your characters also do this?
I believe everything. I even think the vehicles can, based on how I remember it being.
Oh boy! So you can also like give your librarians, if you pick a librarian, you're like, this turn he's the only ones to cast because that's a sub faction trait, and like, man, all right, that's unbelievably powerful.
You have a lot of tools in the toolbox.
Yeah. Also of note, I'm fairly confident that this is in addition to the Deathwatch trait. So you get both.
No, you give up the Deathwatch.
You give up the Deathwatch trait? Okay.
Yeah, because the Warlord trait that comes part of the Army of Renown is a 6-inch aura of you get the Deathwatch trait back.
Okay. That's why people were talking about still having the Deathwatch trait. Gotcha.
Right. Which is really good
because you know about this more than I do.
Because the specialization that you are buying for each one of your units is combos with the Deathwatch rate. So if you lose access to the Deathwatch rate, in theory, those points you're spending on specializations are going to waste. Though most Deathwatch units are around like 300 points, so spending like 20 points is a lot, but spending 20 more points to just be like this turn they can advance and charge is often like going to be worthwhile. Like I would spend those points without even necessarily getting the actual specialization bonus a lot of the time.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to pick the specialization, right? Which is they reroll wounds against something in particular. So this is another rule that every squad of my army has that's not the same across my whole army, so I have to track it for each squad individually.
Yes.
All right, excellent. Carry on.
But those ones are for the majority of those are on your data sheet. So like you're not like picking those at the beginning of the game.
Right, but still, it's just like another layered rule that's not uniform. So all of my units are very different from each other in multiple complicated ways.
Yep.
All right. What else do we get for all of these restrictions? Because giving up all your dreadnoughts and stuff is real. Like that's a restriction.
Yeah. There is a relic that lets you swap out one of your secondaries, and it has wording about being able to pick the two from the same table that you've already picked. So you could have like 2 Deathwatch ones or 2 Space Marine ones.
Oh boy.
I was thinking about that though. I don't think I'm ever taking that relic.
That's fair.
Off Deathwatch have a lot of good relics, and giving up a relic and have a real good need for CP. We'll get to that in a second. Um, so I can't see like taking a relic that might be like, ooh, I was a little tricksy. No, it's not. That doesn't seem worth it to me.
Fair enough.
So after that, we have 3 stratagems. 4 stratagems. A bad, your bolt guns do this mortal wounds on 6 thing, but become heavy. You're never using it. 1 CP, pick up one of your units, and then next turn redeploy them. I can see you using that. I've seen, especially when you're thinking about like filling out your backfield with like a squad and just being like, okay, that squad would have just stood back there the entire game, and now they get to move forward.
Or like, all right, on turn 4, I'm going to put this thing up. It's turn 5, and you still don't screen out your backline for Rod. Like, it's great.
Yep. I'm forgetting the third one that isn't the best one.
You got the terrible heavy bolt one. You got the redeploy unit. I don't remember the third one either. Let's remember the fourth one. Let's just go to the fourth one.
Yeah, let's go to the fourth one.
Dumb.
So
like, dumb.
3 CP. Pick something that you're. So remember how all of our kill teams have to be specialized. Pick a kill team. When that unit shoots at the thing that it is specialized in, when you hit, you successfully wound. You do not have to make the wound roll.
That's so silly.
It's not real. The math on it isn't real.
Now, this would seem reasonable until you like start reading through the options, and the majority of the specializations you're kind of like doubling down. You have to preset it. There is a 6-1 where you get to pick a second thing that you're rerolling wound rolls of 1 against. It's called it's a quilter specialization. And that one says even if you double stack it with your natural chapter tactic, you're not getting a bonus. So it was always kind of seemed as a little bit bad. Now with that stratagem, it says if that unit shoots at any unit, you get to all hits or wounds. So all of a sudden, the quilter specialization, which was the cheapest, is now the best. Oh,
yeah, it's the third one we forgot. Is because it is a army construction strat, not a in-game strat, which is you pick a sergeant, and I believe they gain an extra wound and a warlord trait.
Correct. That was actually very good too.
And it's also extremely good. It's just not in the middle of the game. It's in army construction, which is why we weren't thinking of it. Because Kevin, you wanna? I forget the exact combo. What's the thing that makes this nonsense?
So my goal with it is to take it on an Indominator kill team, which is the Gravis kill team, and you make the sergeant have 5 wounds because one of the warlord traits you can take is an additional extra wound and and 6 up Feel No Pain. So now all of a sudden you have a 5-wound character that can be revived with an apothecary. And even if you don't get any defensive buffs on it, it still has like 6 up Feel No Pain. You then can spend a CP to do the regular give a sergeant a relic to give them a 5 up invuln and 2 up armor. And now you have like a fairly hard to kill unit just kind of taking over the board.
So he's got 5 wounds, 2 of armor, 5 of invul, and he comes back to life every turn unless you wipe out the whole unit, which is a bunch of like T5 3-wound models.
Yes.
That's disgusting.
Great. I love
So
Space Marines.
disgusting.
I mean, it's funny because Space Marines like are pretty bad, but like I don't know, Deathwatch feel like they might be giving them legs again, along with Black Templars. But man, that sounds real good.
I realized I forgot to mention one of the bonuses with list building. So it used to be like each specialization you can only bring one of it per your entire army. As part of this army renown, you can bring 2 of the same one.
Yeah, that's pretty good when the cheap one all of a sudden is just like, oh yeah, any target is gone.
So this made me kind of do a leap because all of a sudden I was under the So I started building a list. And I was under the obligation that all my kill teams had to have a specialization. And as I was reading through the specialization section, I was reminded that Kill Team Cassius has a free specialization. It's the good one, and it doesn't count as one of the usages. It's written in their in the section that describes the specialization. So you can have 3 of the new best one.
Can you explain what Kill Team Cassius is to us? Because I still honestly don't remember what's in that unit, because it's, I think, the only named unit in the game other than the 8, which is just a bunch of characters that split up, so it's not really a named unit. But Kill Team Cassius is just like a troop choice, right? But it's like a named troop choice.
It's a named troop choice. So it's a sergeant with a Deathwatch bolt gun, a veteran with a plasma pistol power sword, a veteran with a Deathwatch bolt gun and a Star's chainsword, a veteran with a Deathwatch combi belta. The Deathwatch part means the bolt gun part has
Special issue
ammo. A Deathwatch veteran with a Deathwatch frag cannon, a Terminator with a Deathwatch heavy flamer, real good, melt-a-gun and power fist, and a Deathwatch teleport homer. He's like the best ball in the unit by like not a close margin. A Deathwatch heavy flamer, for those who don't know, is a 3-option heavy flamer where you can either auto wound non-Titanics, get 2d6 shots that are blast, still a flamer. So if you're shooting at like a 11-man squad, you just say here's 12 hits, or a natural heavy flamer baseline. Biker with a twin Deathwatch twin bolt gun, so specialist ammunition and power sword. A Vanguard vet with 2 twin lightning claws. A Vanguard vet with a hand flamer and a Starter's chainsword. Now, there's some things going on with this squad. First off, it has combat squads, which, if you were really paying attention, you would have noticed that I listed off 9 models. You might think that combat squads doesn't work with this unit. The rule for combat squads is if you're a max size unit, you can split it as evenly as possible into 2 units. So the squad can break into 2. I mean, you can kind of put all the shooting together and all the melee fast moving together in 1 unit. When you split them up, the current way Deathwatch teleport homers work, it's essentially that 1 CP stratagem we were talking about before, but you can kind of put it with either half of the unit. So even if the Terminator's not there, you can be like the shooting unit stay in the back, and all of a sudden they pick up the teleport homer, get it pulled off the board, and now you have to worry about back screening again. So like you kind of get a free usage of that. Pretty utility. And they're auto immune to morale. So while this is like kind of a bunch of weird options, the next cheapest, there are 260 points. Even if you were to bring all intercessor kill team with a specialization, you're still paying 220. And that extra 40 points, you get a lot for that extra 40 points in this team.
So they're just like your best. They're the closest thing you can get to like MSU. do reasonable things.
Yeah, you're spending obviously a little bit more than MSU, but you're getting a lot. Like you're actually getting like a threat out of your MSU, which sounds like you're doing it wrong, but like this army renown is intentionally hard to build. So
Yeah, the restrictions are rough. You've like minimum 120 point units, so Cassius is the best your best bet for like action monkey type things.
So I was working on a list of the side. Librarian, Deathwatch continue to have one of the best disciplines. 5 Infernal Pain's a really good spell. Primaris Chaplain on bike. You want something to move fast that can pull in. It can use the Beacon Angelus, which is a pick up a unit and deep strike them next to the Chaplain, but you don't have to wait a turn. I made him a Master of Sanctity, Watchmaster. So with the stratagem for 3 CP to hit auto wound, I was thinking a Watchmaster was the best choice. The more I think about it, one of Deathwatch's best relics is the Shield Eternal, the one where you give an aura of a 5 up invuln. So even though I like rerolling all hits, I was like running the math, and it's like you don't need to reroll all hits. That stratagem just kind of says any one of your units picks up any other unit. So I'm actually kind of thinking about switching that over to a Captain on bike with a Storm Shield. Or maybe not bring the Chaplain, and just make it like kind of 2 captains. I don't know. I'm up in the air on that. Moving on, 2 Indominator kill teams with the Aquila specialism. They are mirrored. There are 5 aggressors with Boltstorm gauntlets and 5 heavy intercessors with the assault guns.
That unit is sickening. It just kills anything.
Yeah, the aggressors alone overkill a knight. Overkill a Castellan in shooting.
Oh, like a super knight. Oh boy.
Yeah. And keep in mind, you can like make them white scar. Like you can like do a really powerful play where they white scars run like 11 inches forward. White scars say all their assault guns are not -1 to hit. That's part of the trait. Shoot something over here and then charge something over there. So like they're both being like an incredible long threat range, but also an incredibly good melee unit. Because keep in mind, aggressors are actually like melee units too. It's real good.
Yikes.
I think I already said it, but Kill Team Cassius. An old school veteran kill team with a sergeant with chainsword bolt gun. 4 veterans with chainsword bolt guns. A Vanguard vet with bolt gun power pistol. Sorry, bolt gun chainsword. And then 4 veterans with power swords on bikes. 4 biker veterans with power swords. The power swords are pretty good into certain matchups where you into like certain matchup like AdMech, like you actually just kind of like actually get to blow through.
Yeah, things that ignore AP 1 and 2, you just like need AP 3 somewhere in your army, and that's like a bunch of low volume or low strength, high volume AP 3 attacks to just like chop up AdMech models.
Yep, and the Vanguard vet, because the Vanguard vet with the bikers gives the when I combat squad that group, they're considered infantry, so the bikers can like phase through things.
They can go through walls, they can go up buildings, they can do actions. It's great.
Yep.
Deathwatch bikes.
Deathwatch bikes, and then and they were specialized anti-elite. It's like the next cheapest option, and I could see them going up against elites naturally.
Yeah, they're gonna hit scouts and such in the middle of the table. Makes sense.
Yep. And then a final old school kill team with a sergeant, 4 veterans with missile launchers, and a Terminator with a storm shield. Those guys kind of get to stand in the back, shoot some missiles. The the Terminator with the Storm Shield gets a standing cover and be like, here is my 0-up. You actually have to fire real things at me, but then my sergeant will take the first Dark Lance you throw into me.
Well, you have to keep making saves in the same model now, right? But
Well, the Dark Lance will kill them.
oh,
Dark
that
Lance
makes
is
sense. Yeah. Okay.
And then the next Dark Lance is like a 50-50, and then like, so like on average you have to fire like like 3 Dark Lancers into, or some equivalent guns into them before you start taking off the firepower, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that seems really sharp.
Yeah, that's 2,000 points. Oh, and sorry, the Super Apothecary. Couldn't leave home without it.
Was there a Black Star on that list or no?
No, I cut the Black Star.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's like not a lot of units, but the killing power in there is I can't even believe how much damage they let the Indomitor kill teams do. Like last time we talked about Deathwatch, we were like, oh man, Indomitor kill teams, they do so much damage. And like those numbers are so much higher than they were back then, and we were already impressed.
Yeah.
It turns out this isn't like a super damaging, like, yeah, so there's some problems right now with some damaging armies that are like pushed way beyond the pale. But like really this is like it's a scoring addition, but that unit is obsec and good at melee, which means it can just annihilate everything you're shooting and then dive into a bunker and just bully everything with its like what 20 power fist attacks. 15?
Yeah, 20.
No, it's 20 on the charge. Yeah, it's 20 power fist attacks. Like yeah, that's just a really terrifying unit now. Like I think they've reached like competitive viability.
So, question: if I'm planning on taking the captain on bike with the Storm Shield, okay,
yeah,
with the ore, I probably don't bother giving the sergeant the artificer armor because I'm really only getting +1 to save on the unit.
Okay.
Do you instead give him the 5-up Feel No Pain relic? Now I know I have the spell to do that, but it kind of lets that be broken up into 2 different spots for the 2 different big kill teams. In addition, it makes it so that if I go second and people fire like Plague Burst mortars in, I actually have like defensive buffs on the first turn. Like a 5 wound.
That makes sense. Although you really want your opponent to fire Plague Burst mortars at him, right? Because like it's gonna take probably 2 Plague Burst mortars to kill him. And then the third one might like take off like another guy in the unit, and you just like stand him back, and you've lost 1 guy to all of your opponents indirect. Like,
yes,
yeah, I don't think you care. Like, I think everyone's firing Plague Burst mortars at him. You're just like, yeah, whatever, you made a mistake.
That's my impression. Yeah,
so I'm pretty sure if you're playing against like a competent Deathwatch player, they're gonna like someone who or not just a competent Deathwatch player, a player who. Like a Death Guard player who like understands like, oh, that's like a 5 wound dude and there's an apothecary sitting next to him, like they're just gonna shoot something else.
Yeah. I kind of want to use that unit I think that unit actually gets to be durable enough to kind of play the old school 8th edition I'm a bully center of the board unit, because they move fast enough to be like, if I'm in the center I can reach anything important. Their threat range requires them to actually like move into the middle, but like turns out T5, 5-up invuln, probably 5-up Feel No Pain if I can get the spell off. No, like spend CP to make the spell up. And then a 5 wound dude, like you're like, yeah, you can dedicate shots into there, but like I've played with that unit before. You just like don't move it as easy as you want to. Like you probably pick up all the heavy intercessors and the aggressors kill you.
Yeah, because that's the real disaster of that unit, right? Is like if you kill 5 dudes, you haven't really done anything to its damage output. Like all of the damage is in the last 5 dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm into it. This army sounds really tricky to play and really tricky to play against because every unit is so valuable. Once you start losing stuff, it could be really bad. And at the end of the day, they are more expensive Space Marines. So you might run into like that unit is grossly durable, but it's also really expensive, right? Like, what's the point cost on that unit?
390.
Yeah, like, oh, that's a knight. That unit costs as much as a knight.
see.
But that doesn't mean it's bad. Like,
no, it doesn't. It just means that you better, play it correctly
really
and get your value out of it.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it play. It sounds pretty exciting because it's a very different way of playing the game compared to how a lot of armies are playing right now. Any other thoughts on Deathwatch before we go to our next army?
When we get in gaming.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Let's talk about Guard real quick. None of us play Guard, but they did get an army of. They did get a Codex supplement, and it is interesting enough to be worth talking about. So it was Cadia, and it was very, very focused in on vehicles and conscripts.
Conscripts are good now.
What's up?
Conscripts are good again.
Yeah, because I think a lot of what's going on, right, is Cadia fell. And now they're kind of the remnants of Cadia are going around conscripting people from other planets and pulling them in as the new White Shields, or that's the Cadian conscripts. But Cadia's got such an inspiring story, and they've always had better conscripts than normal. That they have some special rules for their conscripts, so you can spend some command points to basically make your conscripts slightly braver. They're leadership 6 instead of leadership 4. They come in 30-man squads, so you haven't really achieved anything. Like, they're still just going to build morale every time, so whatever. More importantly, they lose the rule that makes them fail orders half the time, which makes them go from like this kind of inconsistent scoring unit to a very consistent unit. It's 30 dudes who are going to move every time you need them to move.
Just huge.
And on top of that, they picked up another strat to make themselves even tankier. So for one command point, because it's just always one CP, if the unit's huge, and I don't know what they were thinking, you can't be wounded on 1s or 2s. So it's like baby transhuman, which is worse in some ways, but Guardsman being toughness 3 means that it starts working at strength 6. Which is only 1 less strength than actual transhuman works, right? Because Space Marines are toughness 4, so transhuman starts doing things at strength 5 and higher. So if you think about it that way, like, it starts functioning at just about the same point where transhuman starts functioning. And then on top of that, if the weapon is only damage 1, you get +1 on your save against it. So your high strength weapons are bad because you're -1 to wound with them, and then your low strength weapons, they have +1 on saves. And then keep in mind, Guardian have a psychic power for +1 on saves, and another strat for +1 on saves. So, like, 30 conscripts can move into the center of the table with a psychic power for +1 on saves, and then you point a gun in it, and then they spend 2 command points, and they go, all right, here's 30 dudes with 2-up armor, and you can only win them on 3-ups. And, like, this squad cost 150 points. And they're OBSEC. And they moved 20 inches on my last movement phase.
The people with 120 conscripts are feeling very vindicated.
Oh yeah, people with 120 conscripts are really, really happy right now. I suspect that lists are going to start at 60, because at 60 it only costs 1 command point to make 60 conscripts, like 2 squads of 30, into the White Shields. It's interesting because right now people play Guard almost exclusively custom regiment, with some people like doing Vestroya or Catachin. And I think this supplement is going to push people to just play Cadian, because even if you're not doing it for this particular thing, they've also got a couple strats and a couple relics that are like pretty good. The standouts to me are there's a strat for 6s to hit with blast weapons. You pick a vehicle to the end of the phase, 6s to hit with its blast weapons, double hit, and if you're shooting at a monster or another vehicle, it's 6s to hit, triple hit. This works on battle cannons. This works on, including the new relic battle cannon, which I'm going to talk about in a second. This works on full payload manticores. So, like, full payload manticore, like shooting at, like, I don't know, a plague burst crawler, all of a sudden, like, it's like 12 shots hitting on 4s, but then 6s to hit are 3 hits, and all of a sudden that's the same as hitting on 2s. Like, the math works the same, and it's better if they have any sort of rerolls to hit, which they're Cadian, so they're gonna reroll 1s to hit. There's a new battle cannon that's just a hammer of Sundrance, except with +1 to wound. So it's flat damage 3 with +1 to wounding. It's chaos. Sorry, not +1 to wounding across the board. Just +1 to wound chaos. Of course, who are the enemy of Cadia. There's a couple strats too, which I'm not going to go through the whole thing because I don't know enough about Guard to really digest like what's going to be great or what's going to be not. But there's definitely something there. Like I don't think this is going to be like a tier 1 army. I don't think that I'm nearly as afraid of this stuff as I am of like Deathwatch. But we are going to see conscript blobs at like RTTs. Like if you have a guardsman, like a friend who plays Guard who's had them on the shelf, like they're going to take all of their guardsmen and just be like, these are conscripts now, and it's going to be really good. Like it's just a reasonable thing to do. So I think it's a very different list, and we're going to see it.
Some don't have an official kit, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
What, conscripts?
Yes. Yeah, conscripts I don't think of an official kit. You're just supposed to use.
No, you just paint a white stripe on their heads.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're just gonna. Yeah, you it takes 2 seconds, right? Because their white shields literally have white hats, so you just paint a white stripe on their hat, and it's a white shield.
Also, make it really easy to make them just regular guardsmen again. You just put a green over their white stripe.
Yeah. So let's talk about the other thing, the other army that got an update. Shall we?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So the third army that got an update is Tyranids. And fun side story with this. I was talking to Kevin a bunch about this because I love Tyranids, although he's the Tyranid player. Like actually owns the army, and he kind of looks at me and goes, "I'm really excited about the Deathwatch stuff. I don't think I care about the Tyranid stuff." I was like, "Oh, wow, that's super unfortunate." And then we kept talking, and we realized that I like Tyranids a lot more than he does, and he's kind of interested in Necrons. So, long story short, we've swapped armies. I have a Tyranid army now. He has a Necron army. Well, technically, we still both have the models, but we're going to swap real soon. Anyway, I'm really excited about the new Tyranid stuff. It's wild. So there's like 2 major things. There's basically they got their chapter command early, which is kind of interesting, but they just like got the chapter command out of their 9th edition codex before the codex dropped, and that's universal. And there's also a codex supplement for Leviathan, which we'll talk about. So the Leviathan thing is interesting because Tyranids they're not tier 1 by any stretch. Like they're not great, but the army that Chris played against at ArmorCon, that like Leviathan, Kraken plus Kronos is like a good list, and it's perfectly capable of doing well. Like it got like a Kraken Kronos list got like 5th place at BFS, the GT that I was running a couple weeks ago. So like they have legs, and now we have this supplement which is very good. Like there are really good rules in here, and they're going to change up what factions that get played, which means they're also going to really change up how the army gets played in total. But let's start off with the synaptic stuff. Just so I'm not talking the whole time, Kevin, you want to run over what the synaptic abilities are?
Sure. So first, let's kind of talk about how it works. So, synapse. The idea is that Tyranids are like a network of minds, and a specialization that one has can be like kind of changed through other synaptic nodes. So the way this works is if you're within synapse range of another unit, and that unit is within synapse range of the unit you want to target, or even another synapse unit, and then so on and so forth, you can target that unit as long as there's like a connection of nodes, and you pick that unit and they get a bonus. The bonus is dependent on who the original unit is, and you have to spend points to get these upgrades earlier because they're like chapter command. The generically, with the exception of the Broodlord, the best upgrades are mainly focused on things that could be shot. Either don't have character protection. Do you not disagree?
No, I agree. I think most of the character upgrades are just not good.
Yeah, with the exception of the Broodlord, who gives cover, both heavy and light cover.
The Hive Tyrant upgrade is reasonable, but you're limited to the number you can take based on the size of your game. So you can only bring 3. And because you can only bring 3, you're probably just going to leave the Hive Tyrant one at home most of the time. The Hive Tyrant one is that you can pile in and consolidate 6 inches, which is like sweet. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It's just there's some other ones that are really, really pushed. Another thing to note here is that as of now, there's no limit on doubling up. So you could show up with 3 Broodlords and just be like, they all have the Broodlord thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the Broodlord thing is you pick a unit, it gets light and heavy cover, and outside of 12 inches, it has dense cover. Heavy, and this functions until your next command phase, which is really wild because you can charge units into melee and just be like, no, I'm getting cover saves, like in melee. Because heavy cover is something that like not a lot of terrain pieces actually have.
Yeah, it's very rare. I can't remember.
And
the last
being
time
able
I
to just
played
like
on
walk
something
around
heavy.
with it is very interesting for like Tyranid warriors or like Tyrant Guard. Tyrant Guard are probably not there yet. They're like just a little too expensive, but like they get closer. They get closer and closer every time. You're like, but what if they just had 2-up armor? Like, that's like a lot more interesting all of a sudden when they have 2-up armor.
Not that I think you'd want to use one of your bio adaptions there, but there is actually a bio adaptation that if you're getting the benefit of cover, you get double the benefit of cover.
Oh, I forgot about that. Does that work on heavy cover?
Man,
well,
I don't know.
we'll get back to you on that, guys. Yeah, there's something happening there. So yeah, the Broodlord is very good. The Neurothrop one is crap. We're not going to talk about it. The wild ones, Tyranid warriors are just straight up +1 to hit. Like you pick a unit, +1 to hit. Period. It's unbelievably good. I like Tyranids are one of the armies that aren't like the same weapon skill, ballista skill across the board, which is kind of makes them like interesting. Where like some guys are BS4, some are BS3, but like some of the BS4 units when you push them to BS3, the math starts to get like really, really gross. And I mean we've all seen +1 to hit before. Like yeah, I'd pay 10 points to give any unit +1 to hit in all the phases. Like this is great. Some of the other really goofy ones, Malceptors. Malceptors were close, right? Those are like the big psychic brains on legs. They have the strat to make guns that are shooting at them or things within 6 inches of them -1 strength. And again, that strat was like always close, it just like never quite got there. Well, their synaptic boost is you pick a unit, it's 6s to wound or an extra armor penetration, and it rerolls all damage rolls. This is really good on Hive Guard, who have 1 million indirect shots at strength 8 AP2 D3 damage. A big note is that you cannot put the same synaptic bonus. Sorry, you cannot put different synaptic bonuses in the same unit. Each unit can only benefit from 1 per turn. But yeah, that upgrade's really good. And that unit was already close to playable, so we'll probably see Malceptors see play. The best synaptic bonus is on the worst unit. So the Turbigon is just not a good model. It's
Big Bertha.
It is 14 wounds at toughness 8 for 190 points with 3-up armor and no invulnerable save, and that is a big ask. Like it just kind of dies to las cannons for 200 points. It has complete garbage for melee attacks, and it's a single caster. That's its damage output. It has like 4 attacks hitting on 4s at like 6 -1 D3 or something atrocious. It's also slow, so it's never actually getting into melee. It reanimates 10 Gaunts per turn into a unit that's been damaged, but Gaunts are toughness 3 with 6 of armor, so oftentimes if they're damaged, they're just gone. It does give Gaunts reroll 1s to wound. Oh, sorry, reroll 1s to hit, which is neat.
Up until this book, very unique in Tyranids.
Yes. Its synaptic trait, though, like all this is terrible, and it's still something that I keep going, man, I should probably be trying to fit one into my list. Its synaptic bonus is you pick a unit, and it rerolls 1s and 2s to wound in shooting. And that is heinous on a Hive card. just the grossest.
I'd like to do a quick pause and note that like reroll 1s to hits and 1s and 2s to hit is like it's kind of the first time we've seen explicitly that called out, and I think it's something that GW should do more because turns out rerolling all failed wounds is like too much, but like you can probably do a little bit more than just once and it'd still be not broken. So like
yeah, for sure.
Sorry.
No, I agree. I think it'd be a neat place for GAW to go. So yeah, 1s and 2s to wound is really good. Yeah, chat's pointing out. So chat's asking, is it +1 hit or +1 weapon skill, ballistic skill for the warriors? It's +1 to hit. So yeah, it unfortunately doesn't stack with some of the other places that Nids already have +1 to hit. So you just gotta be careful with that.
No bonuses with the prime.
Yeah. That being said, though, yeah, the Turbogon is just like all of a sudden kind of interesting, and we're gonna get back to it too when we start talking about the next thing. So all tier new Hive fleets have access to that stuff. On top of that, they released and that alone would be exciting. Like, there's some very interesting things in there that would let you play the game differently. The last one I want to talk about is Zoanthropes. The Zoanthrope bonus is you pick a unit, and until the next command phase, whenever it takes a psychic test, it does it on 3d6, drop one of your choice. And that's for all of its psychic power. So if you put it on like the triple casting Hive Tyrant with the Resonance Barb, every spell it casts is on 3d6, drop the lowest, or drop one of its choice. Which basically means that you're always dodging perils, unless you're like triple sixes or triple ones, and most of your powers are going to go off in pretty high numbers, which is sweet. There's like a world where Zoanthropes go back to like a reasonable point cost, and you can actually just like multiple units of them, because their issue always has been that the first unit's damage output is just like reasonable. Like D3 plus D3 mortal wounds is like really good for every psychic power, but you start bringing too many of them, they start failing their powers. Well, they're all doing it on 3d6. They're not really failing their smites, even if the smites go up to 7s.
I disagree with you there.
Yeah? You think it's still just like bad?
So for a 4-man squad, you're gonna get to cast 2 powers, but you cost 200 points.
Yeah.
And then one of your powers is a 2d3 smite. You like compare that to like what Thousand Sons get. I know Thousand Sons are specialists, but they get double casters with character protection, and 4-up invuln for like what 120 points.
All right, let me talk about Leviathan for a second, because Leviathan is doing some things with Zoanthropes that make Zoanthropes like a lot more interesting. And also let's not forget, like, they have 3-up invulnerable saves. That's not nothing. They are like durable. Right. And Tyranids just don't have durable models. There's just like actually nothing in the Tyranid book where you look at it and you're like, this is a durable model outside of Zoanthropes. Not that they're like incredibly durable for their point costs, but sometimes you need to be able to put something on an objective and just be like, this is a huge pain to shoot at.
Agree.
Okay, so Hive Fleet Leviathan, full codex supplement, warlord traits, relics, stratagems, the whole 9 yards. And everything in here is unbelievably good. Like, it's a really, really strong supplement. It was every single thing I was reading was like, is this real? It's real. Like, holy crap. So let's start off with warlord traits. Let's start off with what Leviathan is. Leviathan's trait is if you are within 6 inches of a synapse creature, you have a 6-up field pain. So the synapse creatures, of course, hit themselves, and things within 6 inches of the synapse creatures get field pains. This is fine. Like, it's not bad. It's not as good as Kraken or Kronos, but it's a perfectly defensible faction trait.
It used to be the Gaunt Carpet faction.
Yeah, if you're gonna play a million Gaunts, you'd play Leviathan. And they might go back to that. We'll see. So the trait hasn't been updated. It hasn't been touched. Warlord traits. So 3 of them. The first one, the best one, the one that Warcom spoiled. You are a chapter master. Beginning of your command phase, pick a unit within 9. It has to be an infantry, beast, or swarm. It rerolls all hit rolls. Interestingly, this is future-proofed, which means that this thing isn't going away when the new codex drops, because Tyranids have no beasts. All of their models jump straight from infantry to monster. So Kevin and I are assuming that Hive Guard and Pyrovores and maybe like Biovores and things of that nature are probably going to become beasts in the next codex. But they don't have the core keyword yet, so they can't say core thing. So they're dodging the full rerolls on monsters by calling out infantry, beast, and swarm. Yeah, it's still just like codex Hive Guard. Like every buff, you're like, how many buffs can I layer onto my Hive Guard? Turns out you can layer a lot of buffs onto your Hive Guard, and this is one of them. It's really good. The other one that's really interesting, well, they're both kind of interesting, but the one that's kind of fun is every turn, you can pick a warlord trait, the Hive Fleet specific warlord trait for another Hive Fleet, and give it to your warlord. And he has it for that turn. Unlike the other, unlike the Deathwatch version, there's no rule about like you can't go back. Like you can keep the Kraken one the entire game if you want to keep the Kraken one for the entire game. This is very adaptable, but Tyranids can't pick 3 warlord traits, and they're very hungry for command points. So I think most lists are just going to be taking the one warlord trait and moving on. They're going to take the Hive Commander one, but that one's neat. You should only have some fun with it.
Just to explain that a little bit more. Tyranids have a set of upgrades that take up warlord trait slots. So,
yeah,
and they just Leviathan gets a 1 CP give a warlord trait. So this is like and the bio adaptions are better than these warlord traits. So you're still only going to see one warlord. You're now going to see a warlord trait, Tyranids.
Yeah, you used to see 2 bio adaptions. Now you're going to see a bio adaptation and a warlord trait. Although there's a strat for taking an extra warlord trait, but again, you want your command points. I just don't think I could justify taking another warlord trait when I could just be having more command points. Relics. There's a bunch of them. Let's just talk about the 2 that I think really jump out. There's one for a 5-up. Whenever your opponent uses a strat, you get a command point. Like we said, CP are unbelievably important for Leviathan, so you're just going to put that in every list. The other one is the character that's using it is -1 to be wounded, and Tervagons are characters and toughness 8. So yeah, they're super squishy because they don't have invulnerable saves, but you can use them one with a Hive Fleet adaptation. And then you get the -1 to be wounded, and all of a sudden you're like 14 wounds, T8, -1 to be wounded, 5-up invulnerable save. It's kind of just like pain to shoot at. Like you get like Dark Lances are wounding you on 5s. You also have 6-up Phenopanes because you're it's a synapse creature and it's from Leviathan. Like,
depending on terrain, you can also just stack the -1 to hit too, and there's just another complexity right there that's gonna make you even tankier.
Yeah, so that's the thing that like kind of gives me hope for like maybe I could just put a Tervagon on the table, because they are really big. Like they're taking up a lot of real estate in your like area where you want to be hiding models. And the first thing that you have to hide is 6 Hive Guard, and oftentimes the second thing you have to hide is 6 more Hive Guard. Because I think with all of the buffs now that you can throw a Hive Guard, you might want to just like bring 2. All right, strats. There's a ton of them, but there's some that are just ridiculous. So they got 1 command point, 6 to hit explode. This is both in shooting or fighting. 6 to hit explode. If the unit that uses it is 11 or more models, it's triple hitting on 6s instead. It's 1 command point normally, or it's 2 command points for Gene Stealers. It's not 2 command points if you're over 11 models though. So like you can put 30 Devil Gaunts, that's the 3-shot Hormigaunt unit on the table, and they make 3 attacks each. There's 30 of them, so it's 90 attacks with 6s to hit, triple hitting. This kills without buffs because they're usually going to come from outflank. This kills 2.5 Raiders or 75 Dark Eldar infantry, which is to say 2.5 Raiders because they're going to be in the Raiders, and they're not going to just like hand you that many infantry. Oftentimes you're not actually going to need to use these buffs because you're just going to, that unit kind of kills everything and get pointed at anyway, but it's nice to have the option of like, oh, you're playing against AdMech, they're going to have 3-up saves or 2-up saves even, and you can still just push so many attacks through that they're just still going to be losing models. This strat also works on Hive Guard, much like everything else here. Another one, and this is where Zoanthropes become kind of interesting, Kevin, is they have a strat because they're an 8th edition codex, they don't have anything that interacts with OBSEC or with actions. They have a strat for both. They have a strat that lets you pick a unit and it can shoot without failing actions, and it also gains OBSEC, and if it's already OBSEC, it gains double OBSEC. The only restriction is that when you pick the unit, it must be within 12 inches of a Synapse unit. This is where Zoanthropes get interesting because they are a Synapse unit, so they are always eligible for this strat. So when you can make your 3-up invulnerable save Zoanthrope unit like double or even triple move and give it OBSEC, all of a sudden they're kind of just like aggressively floating over to your opponent's side of the table and just being like, all right, we're here now. We're OBSEC. We have 3-up invulnerable saves. this is going to be some amount of your time dealing with it. And they fly, so they're just going over everything. They move kind of slow. They're like, what, 6 inches, or is it 5?
5 inches.
Yeah, it's 5 inches, but they do advance because, they're psychers. They have no damage. They have no shooting or melee. They're not interested in charging, so they're always advancing. So it really ends up being more like 8 inches.
Fun news on zone thropes and narrow thropes. Because GW does not like printing a data sheet without a weapon, they have a weapon that is the basic weapon profile with a different name. Teeth and Claw.
All right, so some other really wild ones. When your warlord dies, you can pick a new warlord, give a new warlord trait. It's kind of interesting because your warlord has the option to give up his warlord trait for a Hive Fleet adaptation, and then go and get himself killed and get yourself a real warlord trait, which is kind of funny. Also, they're doing the Deathwatch thing. They're like the hyper adaptable fleet. So for 2 CP, you can pick another Hive Fleet's trait on one of your units and use it until the end of your turn. Until the end of your turn is really good because Leviathan's mechanic is defensive, so you want it on your opponent's turn anyway. So you can be like, all right, surprise, this turn my Gene Stealers are behemoth. They're rerolling ones to hit because there's more of them than there are of you. And then on your turn, they're going to have 6 of Feel No Pains, which is the exact timing. I wanted both of those abilities anyway. Or you're also allowed to grab sub Hive Fleet abilities too, like the custom ones. Really, the only one I think you'd ever grab is +1 armor penetration if there's more of you than there are of them. And you're going to grab this specifically on Gene Stealers when they're swinging into Terminators. And outside of that, it's not particularly interesting. But like it's cool. Outside of that though, like Kraken, if you're going to double or triple move a unit, you're going to want to throw it across the table. You can Kraken to make sure that it's getting really high advances. You can, I think that's probably going to be it. Like it's a little at UCP, it's a little too expensive to justify some of the other uses for it. Like, yeah, you could give your Hive Guard real ones to hit if you wanted to for 2 CP by making them Chronos, but I don't think you want to do that.
It's nice having the versatility, and because it's versatile, you can't say the stratagem won't be used, but I think you'll probably only use it like 1 out of every 10 games. It's like that expensive, and tiered command points can be like you could just like 2 CP is also just double shoot with one of the best shooting units in the game. Like it's
100%. I agree. I do think the gotcha of that strat though is going to be like, the Sworn Lord's just going to fall back in charge because surprise, he's Kraken now. And like, watch out for that one because that's pretty real. So yeah, that's the behemoth stuff. There's some more stuff in there.
Leviathan.
Leviathan. Goodness. It's just really exciting. There's so much happening there. They're slower than Kraken, but I think they're as shooty as Kronos, if not shootier. And then they also have the 6 of Feel No Pain. So there's a real chance that they just kind of boot Kronos off their throne of like the shooty subfaction for Tyranids. And I personally am very excited for them. I don't think they're going to be like tier 1 competitive. Like their data sheets just do not have the durability, do not have the points efficiency to be a tier 1 competitive army. That being said, Chris, you okay? Think of something playing over there. Okay. That being said, they have very good things, and you will see them at RTTs. I'm going to bring them to RTTs. They also just look like a ton of fun to play. Tyranids have always been like a very fun faction to play and think about. And now that it's basically just more of that, right? It's like more of like the weird tricks that Tyranids have. The one thing I will say is that I know I have some Tyranid friends who feel this way, and I do see this too, where it's like it's just Codex Hive Guard. Every buff in this book just makes Hive Guard even better. So we're just going to see more and more Hive Guard seeing play. We're probably going to see them move up to like two blocks now because you're going to be like, all right, this block rerolls hits and wounds and double hits on 6s, and this block's going to hit on 2s. And then I'm going to double shoot the one that has all the explosions and rerolls. And they're just going to funnel all their command points into Hive Guard, and it's going to come out the other end as damage. That being said, I'm glad that this very old 8th edition Codex still has legs in the ridiculousness that is 9th edition.
I agree.
You know that Craftworld Eldars goes 4 years old today.
What's up?
Tyranids and Craftworld Eldar, I believe, are both 4 years old. Codex
Oh
wise.
wow. Yeah. Wow. It's been a while, huh?
Yeah.
But don't worry. Soon, Chaos Space Marines will have a second wound.
Hooray!
All right, I know that was a lot of me talking. So Kevin, what are your thoughts and feelings on the new Tyranid stuff? I know you weren't excited to play it, but power level wise, like,
so
where
power
you at?
level wise, it's pretty great. I'll get to the power level in a second. I definitely feel what that other Tyranid friend was feeling. Like, the desire has been to like actually have monster Tyranids like be something you can do, and for a long time we were just hordes with some Hive Guard, and now we're kind of like a smitter smatter of things that buff Hive Guard. It's like Psychic Awakening was, let's make Hive Guard better. This book is, let's make Hive Guard better, and it's just like, come on, when monster time? Give me monster. Me want
That's fair.
big guy.
Yeah, I think like the Swarm Lord and Hive Tyrants have been the only playable monsters for a long time. Oh, and that's the one other thing I probably should mention. Right, what's the one playable monster in Tyranids? It's the Exocrine, right? And yeah, that's the plasma shooty one, and he got nerfed, which like sucks. The Symbiostorm power, which is the power where you give a unit exploding sixes in Chronos, got changed to be unmodified sixes. And the old trick with it used to be you'd put it on the Exocrine, because Exocrine was naturally +1 to hit, so it would explode on 5s and 6s, and that's gone now. Which means that Exocrines will probably be seeing less play and are probably just going to get replaced with more Hive Guard, which stinks because it was a cool monster. It was like this big toughness 8 shooting platform that like actually was playable, and it's probably just not anymore because it ate that nerf. Now I understand why they made the change. They weren't afraid of it. They were afraid of Tyranid warriors giving +1 hit to Hive Guard and having them explode on 5s. And that is a reasonable thing to be afraid of because that is probably too good. It just stinks that the Exocrine is like the casualty of that.
In case you're wondering how they changed it, as part of this book, they were like, anything that's in Psychic Awakening is reprinted here. But surprise, one thing got changed.
Yeah.
It's a funny Goonhammer. I remember reading that in the Goonhammer article, and it was just like, wait, they changed something?
Yeah.
Really?
They did the same thing when they reprinted the Chaos Space Marine stuff. There were a couple of things that got changed to unmodifieds.
Like stuff.
They're kind of doing that whenever they reprint them. So all these reprinted ones, they're changing stuff to unmodifieds because they're done with the stacking buffs and being goofy, which stinks because like that's all 8th edition codexes have going for them. Please stop it, GW. Like, yeah, I understand that you were afraid of Hive Guards like double exploding on 5s, but like Nids aren't like gonna be smashing Dark Elder off the top table anytime soon. Just like let them have their choice.
Yeah, it turns out the unit could kind of already kill anything it wanted to. Like, this just makes the other thing unplayable, not them.
Yeah, which sucks. But anyway, Chris, how are you feeling about Nid? So after you played against Nids recently, how are you feeling about the difference between like that super fast Kraken list, like slowing down but becoming killier and shootier?
I'm for it. I mean, I think it just opens up like I'm always for just opening up like more play styles with the same army. Having one note armies is just boring, and like it becomes very, very stale really fast. And either it's like undercosted or it's going to be just like crap and everybody knows how to exploit it and play against it. It's just not good game design. So I like the opening up of Leviathan to getting them all these new toys to play with until their 9th edition codex drops. First, you didn't talk more about the relic where like you can't take invuls against it. Seems like it would be okay.
It's only armor penetration 2 though. Like it's pushing most people to their invulnerable saves anyway, like and not far past them.
Yeah.
Right? Like most things are 2 up, 4 up, or 3 up, 5 up. So like what's the unit that I'm hitting with this AP2 thing that makes them actually be taking a save that's worse than their invuln? Like it's only demons, right? And I don't know. I'm not taking a relic that's only good in one matchup.
Yeah, that's fair. Because it's like the Calexis who, like, he can't take invuls, but he has a no AP weapon.
Yeah, like whatever. What was that? What were you gonna say, Kevin?
No, that was me agreeing with you.
Okay. I too was very excited when they spoiled. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so good. We're gonna do some sweet things. And I was like, no, we're not pushing anything to its invuln, and I could just be taking Murderous Size and have damage 4 claws.
So that is, I mean, you technically can take Murderous Size on the swords.
Can you take Murderous Size on relics? I don't think so. Rules time. Yeah, so do we have anything else we want to hit on this stuff, or are we all set?
We're finding out the answer.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Kevin looks that up. Next week, we already have a topic lined up. So I'm going to preview that a little bit now so you guys all know what to be excited for. So 2 weeks ago, I got to be the surprise head judge of BFS. I will tell that story next week if you want to hear it. It was a great time. I had a lot of fun. So we're going to talk about both that tournament in general and also just like rules judging for larger events in general. Not COing, because I didn't organize the event. Like other people did all the actual hard work of like getting trained together and like making BCP work and getting everyone there at the right time and getting the venue ready and, in the time of COVID, doing all that safety stuff. I was just there for rules. But being there for rules was very interesting, and I think it is worth talking about both in the specific and in the general. So if you want to be part of that discussion, definitely check us out next week where we will be talking about it.
You 100% can.
Can?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm more interested in the Blades now because that pushes them to AP3.
Because beating up one of your bio adaptions, often defensive bio adaptions are better, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but it is sweet. All right, Chris, want to take us out?
Sir. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this week's show. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, thanks to my contributors, Kevin Lieb and Benjamin Rubenstein. Tune in next week. We're going to be talking about Battle for Salvation and being head judge of a huge event and people pausing their chess clocks. All right, thanks, everybody. Bye.